All right, welcome to another episode. All right, this is Edmondson Entertainment, another father and son podcast. We just going into being a man and what it means to be a father. All right, which is a good topic. It's a nice day. Nice spring day. Why not go into another episode and get into some subjects. And some conversation. Hopefully the podcast and everything it sounds clear. It's a little windy out here, but hopefully everything still sounds good. Um, so what is it to be a man? What is it and what does it mean to be a father? Why is it so important? So we're gonna go into it, and just go through it, and see how everything sounds. So what does it mean to be a man? What is that? You hear a lot of conversations, women they be like, what do you bring to the table? A lot of people they feel like only men can, all they do is provide or protect, but it's a lot more to that, I feel like. So we're gonna get into it. Uh so what do you think it means to be a man?
So when you talk about your definition of what it takes and what it is to be a man, you got to go back in your history. So history, everyone has a history of what they're taught and how they're taught to be a man. My history goes way back. I was raised by my mom, a single mom. Back when we lived in West, we started off in West Memphis, Arkansas, and then we moved to California, LA, and I was pretty much raised in LA. Shortly after that, by my stepfather. So my stepfather was a different type of guy than my real father was. So it was like I was kind of into a lot of different things, and I was learning a lot of different things for all the men that were around me. And when you talk about raising a kid, it takes a like I said, it takes a village. We're all taking bits and pieces from people we like, and we're taking bits and pieces of things that we think is makes sense. For instance, like I said, I grew up around my uncle who lived in California. He was a different kind of guy, but he was also a hustler too. So he was out there doing things that were not necessarily good for me to see. I had a father who was also a stepfather who was all about hustling as well, but I never really seen him hustle. I seen him work his butt off though in his job, this assistant nursing job that he worked every day. So that's where my background comes is from these various dudes that were in my life growing up as a kid. So I saw a lot of negativity. I saw a lot of positive. So as I was growing up, I had to bump my head a half a dozen times and look at different things that I was going through at that time. So when I, first started dating and first started getting, and started really exploring the fact of having a relationship, I was molded by things I learned from back in the days, from these older guys that I was around all the time. So that pretty much molded me, and it kind of gave me a direction of where I was probably going to end up, right? So I never really had a good, strong role model for an actual father figure to go out there and do it. But I have various pockets of people doing various things to kind of put into one perspective of what I thought a man was actually supposed to be doing. Relationship was not my strong suit because I knew so many guys and there wasn't their strong suit either. They weren't really big in relationships. And I think that all kind of falls underneath the father figure as well, because you kind of have to have a strong relationship, a strong bond to teach your kids those bonds with not just with females, but having a strong bond with a relationship, whatever relationship you're involved in, friendship, relationships, teachers, students, just relationships you had throughout your life, and how to nurture those relationships and how to build upon those and how to grow them.
Yo, that's heavy that you said that because I was thinking like you do learn a lot like a different characteristics from different people when you talk to them
For sure.
as you growing up, you
Mm-hmm.
see. And that's why it's so important for you to have, somebody that's I would say like somebody that's, I don't want to say good, but somebody that's trying their best to be a better person, hardworking, what's more characteristics as you think?
So the guys that were around me, they were all hardworking, but they all did things that are probably not a great example of hardworking. Like I said, my uncle, he was a hustler, but he worked hard. He gave you what you wanted. I mean, he was always a good guy for the most part. He was from good stock, but it was just some things he was doing that was handing down to me because I looked up to him. And so if I'm looking up to him as being this wonderful, great guy, but in reality, he was selling drugs and poisoning our streets, that technically was not a good side of him, right? That wouldn't be the guy you want around your kid. But the same token was is he was family. I knew him. He was always there to protect me because that's what family do, right? They protect you. But it was just part of my relationships growing up was with my uncle. But I had other male role models in my life that kind of showed me a whole different aspect or whole different attributes of things that I should look into as far as growing, seeding into me as a person.
True. I know when I was growing up, I used to see all type of stuff with just, different people. I used to be like, dang, even with certain friends, or people that was older than you, always look up to people. But like you said, you can either look at it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. But yeah, man, I definitely could remember, like, I used to look up to, like, some of my uncles, you know what I'm saying? Definitely looked up to my dad, of course. But, teachers, it was certain teachers and people that I met that I was like, man, they so cool. I want to take certain things that I learned from them, and just grow with it. So yeah, I definitely go with that. Like, you, with different people you grow up with, you pick up certain characteristics, and that could even be from your mom too. I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because your relationships
Mhm.
are based on your interaction with everybody else, right? So
Mhm.
your mom is kind of feeding into those, not necessarily the male figure of your life, but your mom's a big part of that. Like I said, my mom was a single mom, and she would have to mold into me some things, some characteristics of a man by teaching me that that's not the right thing to do, and this is how you mold that relationship. So I had to go out there and kind of figure that out, like trial and error, how to figure that out, how to get into a relationship with a female and how to nurture my relationship. And I was not very good at that. And like I said, I didn't really have a strong role model to teach me how to nurture that relationship with a female because, like I said, I grew up with a bunch of people that were from the streets and they spent a lot of times in the streets. Even my stepfather, he wasn't a really good father. He was just mediocre, and I think it was like it's this generational curse where you're constantly handing down this negativity, and they're not really showing you how to be a man and how to nurture these relationships with a female. So you got to kind of figure out, like, okay, how do I nurture this relationship with this female? How do I make it work? How do I uh how do I show true love? Because when I grew up, I was really not taught how to show true love. Right? You're more passionate, you're more nurturing than I am as far as, hey dad, what's up? I miss
Oh
you. What's
yeah.
going on?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
therefore, you learned that. I was never to show emotions and never be like, hey, hugging and all that other stuff.
It was like that growing up for real.
Right, and for you, but then I'm saying there's certain things that people pour into you that teach you that and give you that. When I grew up, I never had that. My mom was the only person that hugged me and gave me that, but I wasn't taught how to show that in return. So I had to kind of figure that out as I grew up. That okay, this how to be an adult, or this how to be the man. So mom had to take on those double responsibilities, and for the most part, she did. I think my mom did a decent job, but I was missing that male role model in my house to teach me, a whole other side of a relationship. My uncles could give me that, but great, they didn't really know what a relationship was either. So
That is tough. My bad. Oh, forgive me. My phone just had a little
I
malfunction.
miss I miss that.
I should put up the do not disturb on here too. That's probably what it was. My bad. Yeah, I just let it do its thing. My bad. But yeah, I mean, getting back to it, my bad. The camera had messed up or whatever. Looked like it's about to mess up again. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things that go into it. I know, like when I was growing up, it was a big stigma, like being hands on, like, or like hugging somebody. A lot of times people would say, like, I don't want to say the word, but they'll be like, oh, that's fruity or whatever. For you to be able to, show some type of affection. with other men as far as like a handshake or like hug or getting too close or whatever.
And those are the things that I thought, that, kudos to my mom and kudos to, her trying to do that. But as a being a man now and knowing what I know, I think it's so much more. There's so much I was missing as a young adult, as a kid growing up in a single mom household, that I was missing a lot of things. And I think my mom had a lot of challenges to teach me, okay, how to be a man. And I know it was easier for her to teach a female how to be a female because she was a female. But to be a man, not just a man, but being a black man in today's society and learning and nurturing and teaching me what I need to know to do that. I mean, my mom couldn't teach me how to shave. She couldn't teach me, okay, how to do this and how to do that where dad could. And being young, you never thought that was a big deal because you never knew what you didn't know, right? So I had uncles say, yeah, they'll take over and they do this, but because they weren't like my mom and her way of thinking, it didn't come across to me as being an actual way thing to do. So it's like, okay, yeah, and especially when they talked about sex or when they talked about getting with other females, their logic behind that wasn't the same logic as my mom thought because my mom was educated for one, which they didn't think education was a big deal. My mom was also she believed in nurturing relationships. They didn't believe in nurturing relationships because if you look at them back in the days, they were burning bridges left from right. So I didn't have that not saying legit role model, but that role model is just going to actually nurture me and teach me how to be a man. This is how you shave. This is how you talk to people. Women aren't bitches, and you can't say this certain word because it tears down the person or tears down a relationship. So I didn't have that. I had people telling me it was okay. Okay, yeah, you could call a chick a bitch. When she acts like one and talk like you call her a bitch right out of her name, right? So those were the people I was around, and it wasn't nothing negative against me. It was negative that I was taught that, because it was a learned behavior. And so as I got older, thinking that was okay, it was basically part of me. So I was pushing people away from me by the way I was talking to them, and I thought that was okay, right? But being a father now and being your father, just saying, hey, listen, that's not okay. You can't call a chick that. Okay. Now there's times when you get into it and there's certain things you can say, but you got to really say, yeah, it's not a relationship I want to I want to keep. So it's like you're burning down those bridges, and I think that's where it all surfaces from. That's where it all comes from. So to build yourself up and to create this better reputation of what's right and wrong, it's so much bigger. And I think a lot of people are like, man, you had a dad, you had a mom, somebody there to teach you. But if you don't have both parents in the house, I think it's really hard to kind of uh, navigate your way of as being a man growing up when you don't have a man in the household, at least a man that you think is a real man. I thought these guys were all real men. And the reality is they were a total different type of man that I didn't want to be because I'm not like that today. And so now I love my uncles. Don't get me wrong. My uncles were good, nice guys to me when I was growing up, but their way of thinking is so fucked up right now. I mean, I wouldn't put you in front of them and let them raise you. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a whole bunch of like people though. Like when you look at it, a lot of well, just a lot of children, especially Black, Latino, and Native American, or whoever. A lot of children they grow up, without fathers, and you could see it. They got statistics behind, growing up without a father in the house and only growing up with single mothers. Not to say that we was grew up type deal, like, but it's like a lot of people they show you like the differences. Like it breeds like what a lot of murderers and all different type of stuff like that. So just having a father or some type of male figure, it makes a big difference on, I feel like putting between jail, prison, and death, because that's really all they say when we was growing up. They're like, you either, if you live in an alternate lifestyle, you're either gonna die, be in jail or be in prison type deal,
Right. Well, that was a stigma growing up, right? Because
hmm
we're always in the streets. We're always outside watching uncles and other guys on the streets doing what they do: fight, drink, sit on the curb, drink,
hmm
sit out front, drink. So there was really nothing positive coming out those environments. I mean, you talking about L.A.? I saw more Crips and Bloods, R13s, just different gangs that were coming out of that lifestyle, that area that I was in. So to me, that was a norm. So if I'm walking to school every day and I see fights, prostitution, and all that stuff, that's all I'm seeing. This is all these negative stuff. This is not positive stuff. So, being a young man, what are you going to pick up? All the negative stuff. So you see prostitutes getting in cars, you see gang banging, they fighting and doing all their little things. So when you see all this stuff is wearing on your psyche. So how do you find a positive norm to put yourself in a positive light? How do you do that? but because you really don't know the difference, you right? Because we're still growing up, we're still kids. So to put you in that situation, it gets kind of scary. And granted, my lifestyle gotten better as I got older because I started seeing other things. My mom had to have other people come from different areas, different churches, different people from other ethnic groups to pick me up and take me out of my district just to show me what other things look like. Just like when you guys were kids, I mean, we took you what Hawaii and different places like that out of the country to show you other lifestyle, other things that are going on. And I think you kind of need that to feed positive into you, right? Because all this negativity, like I said, prostitutes, gang fights, fights all the time, all this stuff feeds so negatively into you as a person. It festers as a disease, and I didn't want that for my kids, right? So I had it as a kid, and I had to realize that that wasn't normal. That wasn't normal. That's so now you got to figure out what's normal and what's not normal. So growing up as a kid in California and growing up with a single mom, raising us, and maybe a stepdad on occasions, and actually meeting my real dad at one point. Nice guy, but he just wasn't that role model to say, okay, yeah, Craig, this is how you nurture a relationship. I mean, he didn't nurture a relationship with my mom. My stepdad, he had a terrible relationship with my mom. Matter of fact, it was, I mean, I don't want to talk about the man because he's dead today, but he wasn't the greatest guy, but he was with my mom the longest. And he was supposed to care for us and, teach us all how to do the right thing. But he was just a mean guy anyway. So again, I didn't have that strong role model in my life. And I did notice take something from him because, like I said, he worked hard. He went out there and worked 3 or 4 jobs. He was always gone. He was always coming in and out, just getting ready for one work to go to the next work. And that's why I think I got my work ethic, my strong work ethic is from him because that's what he did. My mom, she did the exact same thing. I mean, this is a topic that, as Americans, or being African American in America, that we can all sit down and we can talk about and we can try to say, okay, yeah, this needs to change. This is a negative.
It's a problem that's hitting everybody,
It's
basically.
a big problem. It's a big problem because
Mhm.
when you think about it, it's like how do you take directions in the right direction when you don't know what the right direction is?
Exactly.
And I say that to myself a lot. So growing up into where I grew up in, and the things I went through to get back right. Like I said, I had a relationship. I had failed relationships over and over and over again. Right. I was married once, didn't work out. I have kids out of wedlock. Things like that. But not everybody's cares about wedlock stuff like that. It's nurturing your relationships and how do you deal with your kids, right?
Mhm.
So nobody told me, hey, Craig, this is how you want to be a good father. Who tells you that? Who comes and says, hey, this is how to be a good father? So if I whoop my kids, does that make me a bad dad? Or that
No.
make me a good dad? So those are things I'm talking about. It's like, how do you raise your kids to do the right thing? How do you raise your kids? And we're not all perfect. We're not all perfect.
That's true.
And I don't think anybody can tell us, hey, Craig, if my kid goes out here and he does something I tell him not to do I whoop his ass or do I put him in the corner? How do I do that?
Mhm.
And I noticed that with my kids is it not all of them are the same.
Mhm.
And it was trial and error too with me because I had kids pretty rapid, right? Back after back, pretty rapid. So it's like some kids took heed to what we were doing and some didn't, right?
Mhm.
So some had to you had to bear the rod with their ass because some of them you had to like dragons flying by. So some kids you have to be strong discipline. So you have to use your rod on them. And some kids you scream at them, put them in the corner, they're fine, right?
Mhm.
So it's a trial and error for me because it's like what's too much discipline, what's not enough discipline. So sit him at home and make him write down his name and stuff like that. So my parenting style had changed over the years. That I say, okay, I'm tired of beating this kid's butt all the time. What can I do differently to kind of get out of the mode of beating them because I didn't like that all the time, because it's constantly smacking them in the hands. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do. So I can tell you, hey, Craig, don't go over there and stick your hand in that socket over there because if you stick your hand in that socket, it's going to electrocute you, right? And the real lesson comes if you go over there and stick your hand in that socket, they shock your ass, right?
Mhm.
So those are the things you kind of juggle as a parent. And I think I was once again I was never taught how to the perfect way to be a parent. I had to figure it out, right? And then you had the other thing coming in. You had other people who weren't come to your house who were not parents. They work for the state and they were like coming and investigate you as a parent, saying what you were doing is is not logical, right?
Mhm.
So, but those wouldn't be the same people who are coming when that kid becomes a teenager and he's going upside your head and beating your butt because they ain't coming back. Now it's the police. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with those things? So once again, you have to figure out that too. So I never had that problem with my kids. I'm just saying, as a retired police officer, I've seen that so many times. So it's like well, how can you tell this person what he's doing is wrong when in reality is this kid needs it, right?
I mean, he's talking about like you said, certain activities that keep you. Yeah, I got you. Father and son, for real.
Well, yeah, I'm sipping. You swallow, and I'm like,
You
I'm
were
drinking.
saying, basically, all right, that it's certain characteristics when you go out. Let's say you said, like I remember when I was younger, boys and girls club. You know, you had got swimming classes.
Mm-hmm.
Certain people they do basketball. You know, football. You know, I truly believe when you said these different activities, they can benefit your child in different ways. You know,
Mm-hmm.
to where you're not doing stuff. I remember when I was going to high school, I had a after school driving class. We had all different type of after school
Mm-hmm.
programs. You know, Kesey used to play football, Payne used to run. You know, all these
Mm-hmm.
Rashay used to run.
Mm-hmm.
So and I remember like all that benefited us because we had time. We could have been doing all this and that, but
Mm-hmm.
because y'all kept putting us in different things, we was traveling, we was always doing something. It kept us from being in trouble basically. Even though we did still get into stuff
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, but just the ability to always go and do something like as far as activities,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't always about money, but just going out and doing something. I feel like that was really good for our growth for real.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's keeping you busy, busy enough where you're into stuff and you're kind of learning too, as you go. But as a parent, you wanted to break those you want to navigate through those that parenthood issues that you might have with your kids. So if you go, okay, if you put them in this activity, they're at least doing something every day. They're not, sitting at home trying to think of something to get into. They're at least learning some new skills or working out stuff, and they're being consistent.
Mhm.
So if you go, okay, I'm going to sports, and if they're consistently involving in that sport or that after school program, you're learning them consistency, and you're teaching them how to follow directions, follow rules. So you're pouring good things into them when you're allowing them to do those type of deals, right? So I had your brother. He didn't want to. He had a hard time. He didn't get his way. He got mad. And we wanted to quit all the time. So he was a little bit more stubborn. So it's like, okay, do we allow this kid to quit or do we force him to keep doing it? Now I want to play football. I want to play football. So hype on football, and
He was good.
he's pretty
I
good.
used to like watching Keith play, dog.
But the problem with him is he wanted to be consistent, but when it came down to getting his way,
Hmm.
he became withdrawn from the sport. Didn't want nothing to do with it. So his attitude was like, I'm not. I don't want to do it no more. And then as a parent, it's like, do you allow him to not do that anymore, or what do you do? But he was always busy doing stuff. He's always in trouble because he's too busy doing things. In reality, we should have kept him in football, and we didn't do that. So I mean, but he always went to the next thing though. So that always worked out for us. So we're learning. We're as parents, we're learning as we go. And there's no parent out there say they got 100% answer for everything that happens. It doesn't work that way.
uh, I know one of the things like sometimes when you're a father, you got to make heavy calls or you got to make hard calls. Like I know like sometimes we deal with certain things and people don't really understand it or like they really don't pay attention to some of the stuff we go through as fathers. Like a lot of time it's a huge thing where, if women they're going through some or they need help or if they want to talk to each other, they got they right there for each other or the government is there for it. I feel like a lot of times it's like a big thing with like us men, we feel like we don't have to talk about our problems. We just deal with it.
Yeah, and that goes with a generational curse. It's like I said, I was not taught to wear my emotions on my sleeve, but
Yeah.
to hide them. And deep rooted, long term, you find out those things cause long term effects. That could harm you later on down the line.
Mhm.
But to share them and let them go sometimes is helpful because you're releasing that build up aggression or whatever it is. So sometimes even with my grandson dealing with him, it's like there's certain things I have to change with him. So it's like he realized that I'm alpha, that I'm the man. I'm not gonna allow him to do whatever he wants to, and I ain't gotta whoop him all the time or discipline him all the time. Which
Voice for
I
it.
do believe in disciplining kids. Don't get me wrong, but I also believe in a voice of reason. Talking to him and sitting him down, and I was never like that either. But Shar used to be. She's definitely like that. She'll sit him down and talk to him, blah blah. And I was never that guy. That was something I had to teach myself because I liked how the results that were coming out of that. So even with my youngest daughters, or not the youngest, but even with one of my daughters, is like sitting her down, talking to her, and saying, "Okay, what's going on?" It used to bug me because I couldn't do that. I'm like, I thought, oh, she just needed a whooping, just whoop her butt.
It's
Right.
that patience. It's that patience
But
for
then,
real.
but then you really know. But then I found out you really don't know what the problem was at the beginning. You're getting mad at her. You're disciplining her. You're doing too much without finding out the reason. Because if you don't find out the reason, it could be reoccurring, right? Because they'll do it again because you never really got down to the reason why they're actually doing it. And once I started figuring that out and started doing better at that, like I said, we don't all have a blueprint on how to be a parent. I realized that okay, talk to her, have a conversation, tell her what she's doing is not going to be accepted, and if she does something, there's going to be discipline later on down the line, and that worked a lot better for me. It didn't work for the boys a lot, but it worked a lot for the girls. Even with the grandson, I try to use both approaches because he can be stubborn too, and he can be, he can be mouthy a little bit because he's a smart kid too. He can be a little mouthy, and so sometimes just talking to him don't always work either. So sometimes I gotta let him know, hey, listen, we're gonna have to deal with this one way or another. Discipline this way or this way. Which way you want. But we're not understanding that he can get the discipline and he knows that. So yeah, there's no blueprint for being a parent. There's challenges of being a parent. There's a lot of things that we have to learn being a parent. But it all goes back down to how we were born and how we were raised and how we started accepting and okaying things. Being a parent, you got to also understand is the way I was raised is not the way you're going to be raised, and you have to be able to change with the times and be able to change with the way you're doing things. So discipline, physical discipline with the rod don't always work. Sometimes you got to switch that up, and I'm a big advocate of just switching it up sometimes.
And shoot, I really believe, besides just like, being there, discipline, like it's a lot of things that men do as far as like, well, of course we protect, we watch over our families, we make sure they okay. Of course we provide. One of the biggest things is women, they always say, okay, you provide. They want a man that provide. They want a 6 feet tall, chocolate. you know
But then again, we go back to that. You go back to how they were. You go back to how they were raised. You think a lot of women want this big extravagant wedding.
uh-huh.
Big ball, Cinderella kind of wedding ball, right?
Hmm.
So they've been taught that that's what they want. That's what they want.
Hmm.
But you see a big change with today's generation is independent, being independent. Don't
Yeah,
need a man for nothing. And I don't need you. I don't need your money and blah blah blah. So things have changed so bad that it's changed the dramatic. Everything's dramatic these days. You
yeah.
really can't. So if you want to, relationships are based on a strong bond, right?
Mhm.
But if you have a woman that says I'm independent, I'm independent, that's where you're getting the fight back, right? The
Yeah.
fight back is independent. If I'm independent, I don't believe in unity. I don't believe in. It's going to be hard for us to mash together, right?
Mhm.
So it's hard to get into a relationship when you're supposed to be one. When everybody thinks they got to be independent.
That's just like the DDG and Halle Berry. I mean the DDG and Halle situation. Basically, you got DDG. He was saying that he wanted to see his son, but he said Halle was withholding his son from him. He said he'll come pull up on him, basically come see them, and he'll be only able to have his son for like 72 hours, and then he got to return him type deal. Or basically every time he around, he basically feel like she's supervising, and I feel like that situation is crazy. Like just seeing like all the comments of what people were saying online, you got a lot of men, they're agreeing with DDG saying, it's messed up that she's withholding the child from him. And then you got a lot of women that saying, it's her kid, she can do whatever she wants. But I feel like a lot of people fail to realize that it's 50-50. A lot of having a kid, it's not just one side. It's not just the woman's kid, it's not just the man's kid, it's 50-50.
But our society is teaching different. So if you look at society as a whole, we have a whole organization just meant to pull women from their relationships.
Yeah.
So when you talk about okay, friend of the court gets involved because dad is now messing around with us, and like again, it's generational curse that the black man's not in the home and white now it's everybody's doing the exact
Yeah,
same
it
thing.
is. It
So you
is.
can't say it's all black men. It's because it's white dudes that are not in the home. It's Chinese. There's all kinds of backgrounds that are not in the households of a female and kids, right? So you got a female, you got a bunch of kids and no man, no male figure, and you got guys in and out of the door, in and out of the door, in and out of the door. So we have a whole system that's established, that's taking on that independent. I'm gonna help you with your independence. I'm gonna give you a small check each month that's gonna give you some money. Plus, we're gonna go over here. We're gonna get child support from this guy who really don't have a very good job in the first place, and we're gonna give you as much as we can give you there. So we have a big issue in America, and I think
Donald Trump, he said he was going to work on that. Like, I know he was working with some of the stuff with he was working with some of the stuff on the child support, whatever.
yeah, but that's really not
Hmm.
taking care of what we need to be taking care of. That's help. Okay,
They need to
so now you
reform it.
got a
I,
whole
I feel like they
they
need to like
but
just go
it's
through it
it's too
for.
big. A lot of that stuff's too big to start getting into and tearing into. Just like what they're doing with the DOs. It's too much stuff for to get tearing into. You just can't start stopping this stuff. Because Americans, we have so many privileges. You start cutting that stuff off, you start cutting off stuff that we need. So now we create a bigger problem that's over here. I'm not saying it's not that's smart for us to start looking into how our government spending our money because it's a good idea. We should investigate that. And we should do better at spending Americans' money, doing other things that make sense.
I think
Not
it's crazy that they lock you up for missing payments. You know what I'm saying? It's
oh,
crazy.
it's I mean, look. So they hire all these IRS agents to come out, and a lot of people might not realize that or not care enough to say, yeah, I don't have IRS coming after me. But reality is, you hire all these people to turning the gun back in the house.
Mhm.
So if I'm sending you taxes anyway, you're taking taxes from me every year, and we're forced to pay taxes and all this other stuff. Which, again, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying if we're paying, we're paying. You're trying to hire more people to get more money out of me, and here you are going out and getting billions of dollars over here and over there and over there. I think that's a problem. So if you're hiring all these people to do that, why is that okay? I don't think it's okay. There might be somebody out there in YouTube land or on the world that think that's okay. I don't think that's okay. So I mean, I think we're kind of getting out talk a little bit, but I
No,
think,
it's all right. It's all right.
but I think when you have a household when it's just a female and she got kids and there's no man in the house, we have this whole disruption. I mean, it's like, so I don't. I think psyche, your mom. Well, I don't know about everybody's mom and dad, but if you talk to a lot of people, a lot of homes, and I've been in a lot of homes, a lot of people believe that a household is strong with a man and a woman
Mhm.
because you got that unity, you got them helping each other, and you got because I mean, you can't do everything by yourself. It's impossible. And if somebody says they can, they're full of crap. Even if you're rich, you're still missing that element of a man or a female in that home that kind of help you out and kind of. Because I've had my kids where I was by myself, and I tell you what, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work,
And
especially if you have more than one kid.
I don't even. I feel like those benefits that they get, like a lot of benefits as far as like the child support, the food stamps, or different things like that. I'm not gonna say all women, not all women, but a huge majority they abuse it, man. I know women that get like thousands of dollars for food stamps. They be selling it, they be doing
Well,
all type of stuff.
and we
The
know that
women
we know
they
that,
go splurging with the child support money,
and we know that. And we as a country, we know that because you're right, they do that.
hmm
There's a lot of fraud, food stamp fraud or whatever you call it, fraud. We know that. We know that's going on. But then it goes back to is back what they were raised and what they were taught.
hmm
So we're pouring all this stuff in the TV and all this stuff into our kids and everybody else. Have this, have this, have this. Everybody wants something. So they're getting this money, and what are they gonna do with the money? They don't know. They don't have any real knowledge of whether they find how to take care of their own finances. As long as they pay rent, they can buy whatever they want. And so everybody wants the chains, they want the cars and all that stuff. So if the females want their nails done, their hair done, their whatever. I'm not just one race. They're all doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
they all
The
doing it right
nails,
now.
the nails, the hair, the shoes, the dress, the purse. I mean, just think of the purse are costing. I mean, look, I bought a purse a couple months ago. It's just $4,000 for. So if you think about it, they like that kind of stuff. It's no different than men. They like shoes and all this other fancy stuff too, cars and all that. Women are the same thing. So they have their kid, they have their child. So whatever information they have or whatever they had growing up, and they're not taking responsibility for okay, the child might need some shoes and stuff like that, but no one's telling them that. No one's nurturing them to say, listen, God, kid has to come first. Now I'm not saying all,
Not all of
not
them.
all of them. I'm
Not
saying
all of them.
some of them, and we've seen the whole, and we all as a country, we've seen a lot of them that do it, but
And
I'm not
it's
saying
all
all of them.
nations of women
But
that do that too.
some women take care of their kids.
Yeah, a lot.
I mean,
A huge
I
majority.
see my grandson show up with some Jordans on. I mean, my daughter's taking care of her son, and she's on primary worker because that ain't doing contributing to that. But I'm saying some women put their kids first and some don't. But then you can tell too, because you can walk, you can go in your community, you can go around your community, you can see a woman show up at the store, she's all tricked out, dolled out, looking good, nice expensive purse on the side, necklaces, a big pocket full of money, and then the kids running around with nose running and hair nappy, cut, and pants hanging out. We see this every day, so that's why I mean, these are facts. We see it every day. We can't look the other way on this stuff. This stuff we see on an everyday basis, and so we know it's out there. So when you talk about being a father, you talk about what's your background? What's your background? How was you up? What'd you do when you grew up?
That's why it matters what chick you talking to. Like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, you hear what he's saying.
And it's true. You get the wrong chick. They take care of your kid. They take care of that money that you send them every month. But then when you pick them up on that weekend that you have them, because our court says you got to have them for the weekend,
Looking
and the
trash.
kid's face and hair ain't done, hair nappy, mom didn't cut his hair, but then you see her, she's got this nice purse on looking good. As she
Looking good.
open the door, she's got her nails done, her eyelashes done, got some new product glasses on, and looking at you like, what you want?
Yo, they did the statistics basically going into most of these media ads and most of these ads that you hear on the radio that they push, you might see on TV, you might hear on the radio, you might see you driving past, you see a billboard. Most of these ads are aimed towards women. You know, they're not aimed towards men. When you go into a store, let's say you about to go shopping, you want to go get some clothes, they put a lot of the stuff. The women's stuff, they put it up first. When you first go in the store, you see all the women's stuff first. They put the men's stuff in the back because they know a lot of men, they go straight to their section, go pick what they need, and they come out. The women, they go to the kids section, they go to their section, the purse section, the shoe section, you know.
Well, because men aren't the ones in the stores though. Men are not the ones in the store. So
Yeah.
like like my significant other, she goes, okay, let's go to the store, right? Let's go to the store.
And we love shopping. We love shopping. I love
I
shopping.
don't. So my thing is, Psyche, what can I do to take my mind off the fact that we're gonna be there most of the night?
Mm-hmm.
So if I go, okay, yeah. So I just say, okay, we go pick up a magazine, a hunting magazine with some guns, because I'm all into guns, right? 2A. I go get a hunting magazine the first thing we get in the store, and I'm able to last at least a couple hours if she go in the store because she's got to go pick up some every aisle, take her time walking down the aisle, and by that time I'm ready to go. So I got to preoccupy my mind in order to stay there with her because I hate for her to go by herself and she hates going by herself.
True.
So I got to force myself to assist to help, and that's all. That's what I do to try to give her what she needs as well. But that's just one part of a bigger picture. When you grew up, you learn what relationships are, what you thought what relationships are, and then you got to adjust as you get older. And I had to do a lot of adjusting in my time.
That's what I feel like. I shoot. It's relationships, man. It's tough, man. Like as far as like the different people that you come across, the different things you pick up, the different things you come across. Like I be telling my son, I'll be like, man, it's all about trial and error. You're gonna make mistakes, but you just gotta learn from them. Uh, I was gonna have a question. I had a question going into the father subject. I was gonna say, what do you think is the difference nowadays between being a father now and being a father back in the old days? Because I feel like nowadays, a lot of people they say, like one of the biggest things now, you say, "What is a woman?" You have people walk up to different women. What is a woman? And women be like, somebody that can do this or that. But I feel like to be a man, you have women that have sex changes. You have all these different things and stuff like that. But I don't think just because you get a sex change that doesn't make you a man. It's certain things that you have to go through to be a man. You feel me?
Well, I don't really get into all that because that's not me. That's not who I represent. So I don't get into that. But I think when when you think about so there was a guy the other day for a perfect example. He would go up to these females. He goes, "What's the perfect man? What do you want in a man?"
Oh
And I
man.
think that is the true question: is what do you want in a man? What do you want in a female?
Mhm.
So if he goes up to these girls and says, "What do you want in a man?" And some of the answers was just crazy to me because it's like, um, one of the girls goes, "Well, I want a man that's masculine and really didn't explain what masculine means to her."
Mhm.
But then that guy walks by and she goes, "Look like him." So it's a buff guy. It's not your normal. It's not your regular guy. It's not a regular normal guy. But then you look at the age group that they're talking to. So, because you start talking to the guys in my age bracket, You might still have some bigger, solid guys, but we got dad bods all day long. We got jobs. We're working hard. I mean, there's so much things we're doing. We're juggling too many, too many hats all the time. So you're not gonna get the same kind of man. But we're gonna take care of the house. We're gonna take care of our responsibilities, and we're gonna try to give you what you want because that's how we are. And we're more established than the younger man. So it's back. What do you want in a man? How you gonna? I think that's what we need to know is what are they looking for? What age group are you know we're talking about? What generation are we talking about? And I think what my generation is we've been through so much over over our lifetime. I mean, think I'm up there now, so it's like when I was coming up, I thought it was harder. And you got to think about it. When I grew up, I had to figure out this thing of being a father. I had to figure out this thing about being a husband. I had to figure out this thing how to be relationships. I'm in my second marriage, so it's like if I tell you something, it was all hard back then. It's a little easier now because I'm old and I'm setting my ways now. So it's like I know what I want and I know who I'm. And I got my kids are older now; they're all adults. So going back there, I'm learning. Now I'm still learning now, but just not so much now because now everything's slowed down a little bit for me now because, like I said, I'm up there in age, so now a lot of things I got to deal with. So even with getting grandkids, I can deal with them for the weekend, and if I don't want them to stay any longer, I just tell the parents come get them. I'm done. So it's a lot easier now for me to deal with things than it was back then. Back then, I had to figure it out, right? So, and that's not. I'm not talking about people with okay, I should be this, I should be that, or I want to identify as a cat or a leopard or get stripes. Those are things I got to deal with. In my house, we don't have that. This is my earth right here. This is my planet, so I got to deal with that. But those people got to deal with their own things. Whatever they do or whoever they're dealing with, they have to deal with that. I don't have to deal with that.
And that's the crazy thing is, I feel like nowadays you seeing that more and more. Just like you was watching that thing. The dude said, your son wear a dress type deal. I was like, well, but that's the era that we in now. Like we
But
seeing more and more stuff like that, even on kids shows.
and
You
see
know,
that, and I'm gonna go back to that. That's their preference.
yeah.
I have no problem with people having their preference at all. That's not my responsibility. That's not my response. That's not nothing I get into. It's their preference, and I respect that.
Mhm.
I respect everybody's preference or what they plan on doing. Just don't push your beliefs and your preference on me, and we won't have no problems. I'm just saying. I'm just have no problems. And how I deal with my kids, my grandkids, stuff like that. That's how I deal with it. Period.
What do you think like is the difference between being like a father and a grandfather? What's like some of the differences between that?
So, as a father, I worked out my kinks as a father, right? Now all my kids, at least my sons and my sons and daughters, they're all older now, so they're adults.
Mhm.
So when I worked out then, I worked it out. So everything I use against them now, I can also use on my grandkids. My grandkids are smaller now, so it's not like I have to really figure things out because you guys were at that era where I figured it out and I worked it out. So I worked out all the kinks. So now I think I'm better prepared to deal with the grandkids, right? Because I worked them out with you guys. Too easy.
Shoot, I feel like even being an uncle, I feel like you do really good at being an uncle too. Like you got different nephews, you got different nieces and stuff. You still look out for them. You call and make calls. I feel like you being a father is super important. Being an uncle. All these different things. It makes a huge difference as far as the family. Like we always go into it. It take a whole village, really. Like you said, we pull these different things from everybody.
I like the fact that I have my kids young. I got a buddy who had a kid now. I can do it personally because
Tired.
I'm not as agile. I'm not as alert. I'm not as flexible as I used to be when I was younger. So when I had you guys, I was still able to do whatever. Play catch, run with you, and actually be faster than you, or being able to do more things with you. Now as an old guy right now with my grandkids, I can't go outside and do all the stuff that they. Hey, so I get the Papa, can I go do this? Can I do that? Yeah, I can watch it from the porch or whatever. So there's things that I can't do now that I was able to do then. So it's a little bit more challenging when it comes to the physical parts. But I try to stay as agile as I can, as. But I was a lot more agile. Like Marquise, I had to wrestle with him every day. That kid just didn't. He just didn't want to. He wanted to fight. That's what he wanted to do. And I had to fight with him every day. I couldn't do that now. I had to hit him with a bat now. So no, it's definitely different. Just saying.
It is. I remember growing up, it used to be like that, but I feel like that's part of it too. Like, you know, uh, my son, you know, he'll say certain things to his mom, you know, certain things that he wouldn't say to me, and I'll be like, you know, right then I cut it to him, whatever. I say something to him, whatever. But for the most part, I'll be like, he look at her, he be like she a nurturing. But some stuff he don't pull it with me though. I cut it to him like he be like you know, he be like nah, dad here. But if it's just him, you know, just her, he pulling all type of stuff. Sometimes I listen, I'll be like, dude, what you talking about?
Right. So my mom was the nurturing person. She always nurtured everything. She hated to do the disciplining part, but when she did, boy, she put it down. But she was always, hey, come here, let me hug you, you know, you get hurt, come here, let me take care of you, right? The day she had to step up and actually step into that physical man world is the day I was like, wow, it totally surprised me. It hurt my feelings, you know, because and I was of age. I was turning 18 years old, and I was like, hey, mom, I'm gonna go out and I'm not coming home tonight. I'm going to Grand Rapids. I met this girl and blah blah blah, and she punched me in my chest, and I thought I lost air in my. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was having a heart attack because I stood up to her, and she still got physical with me, knocked me down. I got back up, and I ended up going anyway. But I just had different respect for her. She never done that before. You know, she's had to adapt to what I was adapting to because now I'm an old 18-year-old man, right? And I'm letting her know I'm going regardless because I'm able to do those things. I went. I felt bad afterwards, but I went. But that's what I'm saying. There's sometimes we have to flex as you know, as the circumstances change. And like I said, I never seen that in my mom before, but I respected her after that. I knew she could whoop my butt because she punched me one time, and I thought, man, that's the worst hit I ever had in my whole life. And I fought a lot of people back in the day, so yeah, it was pretty nasty. But we learn, right? We learn and we move on.
Because that discipline, it can make it break you. Like literally, I feel like a lot of people that I grew up with that didn't have like family members that care, like not even just fathers. Like I feel like just having certain people there to like basically give you that input is a super big deal for real.
As I was growing up, as I was a young man, I got a job working for Wolverine Dispatch, Armored Car Service. At the time with my first wife, I was having some issues. I was stressed out about everything that was going on, and my mom was always, you know, God rest her soul, but she was always talking to me, and she's always, hey, come go to church. That was her first thing. If you have a bad day, things are going bad, come go to church with me. So this particular day, she's like, come go to church with me because I had about enough. The relationship was really sour, it was bad. I just didn't want to be in it anymore. I had kids, I didn't want to break it off. I didn't know how to break it off. You know what I'm saying? So it's like never really had somebody, a male figure around that first relationship to tell me, hey, listen, this is not the way to go, or this is the way to go. So I thought, because out of my mom's nurturing and what she taught me, that stick with her, stick with her, stick with her. So deep down inside, I had a conflict with myself of what I should be doing. So anyway, mom comes and gets me. She's like, I'll come get you. I'm gonna take you to church. So I'm like, okay, come get me. I didn't want to go, but like I said, I was going through some stuff. And now every time I go through stuff, I listen to my mom. So anyway, we go to church. And being the young man that I am, even though I'm a little older now, I still sit in the back of the church. So I'm sitting in the back of the church, and we're sitting there, and a guy, they had a what do they call it? They had a a visiting pastor that came in town, and I can't. And
Special guests.
well, yeah, special guest, but they call him something else. But anyway, I'll think of it later. So anyway, he comes in and he's sitting there, he's preaching, and it sounds really, what he says is really good. It makes sense. Blah blah blah. End of the service, he's like, the music's fades a little bit, and he's calling people out. I'm like, oh boy, here we go, right? Like, here we go. This man gonna call me out.
Point me out.
Right, right. So we, as he's talking, he goes, I don't know. He goes, hey, you. I'm like, oh, here we go. like, I hope it better call me because I ain't moving. I'm not going up there. And he says, you. And I'm like, okay, if I look away, he'll go with somebody else. So I looked away, and this guy's still calling me out. I'm thinking, this man's really talking to me. He's really coming. Then he comes out to almost come over to get me. And I turned back, just didn't have him to turn back. He looked at me, he goes, come here. He goes, yeah, you thinking about it. Come here. And so I'm like, okay, now I gotta go up there, right? So I'm walking up to the pulpit and standing there. He's like, I don't know who should be hearing this. But he goes, you need to take heed to this. He goes, whoever you're hanging out with or whoever it is, but when you walked into church, there was a casket rolled in right behind you. And the thing that stood out is when you sat down, it hit my pulpit. There was somebody in there. I don't know who it was. I don't know if that was you or somebody else you know. But whomever you with or messing with, they're giving you bad vibes. Leave them alone. And being young, I was like, what? But also somebody is that grew up in the church. I was a little scared. I was like, man, what the heck? So in my mind, I'm thinking, who is it that's in this casket? Is it me? Or somebody I know? What am I doing wrong? I need to change I need to change it. So I'm thinking, so I end up leaving. And the whole night I'm thinking, man, I need to do something different. What am I doing different? I knew I was doing some things different that I shouldn't be doing in the first place. So that was kind of easy. Stop doing what I'm doing, right? Because me and my first wife, we were going out all the time. We were doing stuff. We was getting in the fights. We were doing all kinds of weird stuff. So finally, I was like, man, this is heavy on my mind. So I ended up getting a job, right? With Wolverine Dispatch, an armored car service. We were servicing ATMs all through north side of Lansing, Laneville, and all those places up there. And this is almost a year later. Um, we was driving and I was servicing ATM. So I had a partner who always listened to country music. It was his radio, so I couldn't put it on 96.5. It was always Widow. He was always listening to Widow. And I don't listen to Widow. I don't listen to country music. So the news came on. And when the news came on, it goes, news story in East Lansing, a man was shot and murdered and killed in East Lansing. It's the only thing that got my attention was is my younger cousin, who wasn't young at the time, but he was 18 years old. Every time he comes in town, because he's in a rap and all that, he was really skilled when it came to rap and writing songs and stuff like that. He wrote songs for his brother, and he used to call me every time he comes down into town. And I'm like, okay, I get to the story. So he called me over the night before, but anyway, I was like, well, and then they said his name. And I'm like, that can't be my cousin, right? So I called another cousin to verify if that was actually him. And I didn't know at first because I was, like I said, it came over on the country station. I was working. So I called her and had her to confirm that's what happened. And sure enough, it was my cousin. He was murdered. He was executed. He was shot. Some guys came in and killed him. But anyway, years went by, and then they finally found out who did it. But it was those kind of stories that kind of got me on my straight and narrow. So when you think about history, you think about what you were taught, because all this stuff kind of goes hand in hand of things that happen with you in life and what you can do differently, and how you can raise your kids and how you can, prevent yourself from making better choices or making better choices in your life. And that was my rude awakening.
Because like he's saying, man, it's a lot of things that you can, you hanging out with the wrong people, it could put you in the wrong place, man. Or if you're looking up to the wrong people, it could put you in the wrong place. Like it's certain attributes that we see that we pick up that sometimes we don't want them, but I know a lot of people they gravitate toward negativity, especially in this time frame. But it always pays to be positive for real and look for a positive outlook. I feel like do something positive, staying busy.
Definitely.
uh Shoot, we could basically wrap it up though. It's 53. But shoot, I just wanted to get some closing statements though. It's very important. It's very important being a man and especially a black man in this country. I feel like it's a huge stigma on our men, you know. And really a lot of us are great fathers, especially nowadays, I remember back in the old days it probably was a lot tougher for a lot of people growing up. They grew up without their fathers, but nowadays it's like you see a lot of fathers. You see a lot of people stepping up for their children, and trying to be better, you know. But you got anything you want to add to
Yeah, I think, and I'm talking from a single mom's perspective.
it?
Is if a father wants to step up, and no matter how much he wants to step up, you need to allow him to step up and be that father. Because kids do need to see a father, or have a father figure in their life, and they don't want to feel like they've been neglected by one parent or the other.
Mhm.
But also, it's easier for the mom to allow that to take place, allow that kid to have his own relationship with his father by not holding the kid up from going with the father, or making it rough for dad to come pick up the kid by saying, "Oh yeah, I don't like him because I think a lot of moms take it personal. They shouldn't take it personal. They should allow a dad to be a dad, because if he's a crappy dad anyway, and the kid goes with him, the kid's gonna learn pretty quick that the dad's ain't nothing. He's nothing, and they're gonna be able to establish their own relationships and their own vision of what their dad is, and they go from there. They don't need your help to say, yeah, he's a deadbeat and all this other stuff, because we see a lot of that going on. I think that's unfair to the American men. That's unfair to the American black men.
Hmm. I feel like it's a lot of fathers that want to be there for their children. Like I said, the DDG and the Hallie situation, he basically, it's a lot of videos coming out of him making calls or him trying to visit, and she just turned him down, which I think is like super terrible, man. Like, and I know a lot of women, especially like nowadays, they got custody of their kids, and they basically be like, I don't even want him to see them. And you got a huge amount of women that don't, but for the most part, it's very important for you to have that father in that life, man. Because blocking the father out and not allowing him to be in that child's life, that's kind of messed up, man.
No, which is true. Now don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fathers out there that don't need to see their kids.
Exactly, it is.
But what I'm saying is, you have to allow them an opportunity to be that dad, to step up, because you don't want him later on to say, yeah, you blocked me from seeing my kid, or stepping up to being a father.
Hmm.
So I think it's always good that you allow them that opportunity to step up and be a father, and show their kid. Let me repeat that: their kid, on how they love them, or how they want to take care of them, how they want to nurture them. I'm not saying moms don't take it personal because you don't want to be with you. You want to be with somebody else. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of women take it personal, and they hold some type of grudge against the father. But in reality, they need to go back to when they first start dating them, and they first decide to have this kid with this man. That the man, they loved them at some point, and they gave him a lot of benefits at that point. And I think you shouldn't take that away from them when it comes to being a father.
Exactly. You can still be father and mother, without being together. You don't have to be together in order for you to be there for your kids.
To co-parent.
Like I know some dudes. It's a lot of dudes that I know. Like when I was growing up, they'll get into it with a woman or something, and they won't be able to, like, let's say the woman, she don't want to deal with the guy no more, or they don't want to be in a relationship no more. You will have it where the dude was like, shoot, if I can't talk to the mom, I can't have sex with the mom, I can't pull up on the mom like that, then I don't want to even deal with the kid, which is crazy.
That's just them being young.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, it's like your child is still your child, man. You can't just put them on the back burner, or just abandon them. I feel like it's a well, I feel like back in the day it was a lot more, but nowadays you still have a lot of children, that grow up without their dads, and then further down the line they run across their mom. They'll find somebody, they become stepdaddy or something like that. And they done been without a father for so long that they bump heads with the stepdad. And I'll be looking at some dudes. I'll be like, man, it's cool as ever for you to be a father or be a stepdad, But for the most part, I can't do it. I wouldn't do it, but I mean, I give more props to the men that do that. Pick up the tab, for other
Right,
men.
right. Step up to that daily dad to be there.
Hmm.
Um, I, I was a stepdad. I love being a stepdad. It was a wonderful thing. I never had a problem with the actual dad. I gave him the opportunity to be a dad, and I didn't get in the way of that. If anything occurred, it was because of him. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't block that. I didn't get in the way. I didn't even get in the way when it came to a relationship with a mom and a dad. I mean, we also, we got to respect that too, for a certain degree.
Hmm.
Because she is in a new relationship, he has to respect me too as well. So
Hmm.
I think we all kind of sit at the table, and we kind of all need to work together, because it's not about just us; it's about the child too,
Yeah.
and their well-being, and their welfare.
Because that's really what it's all about, man. Like I said, it's a huge deal being that support system for children, and not only just the children, but I feel like just all people. It pays well to be a good person, or to be a so-called good man. Being there for your family, being there for your friends, being positive, trying not to be super negative, you know, um, doing whatever you can for your community. It pays well to be a good person.
So I'm gonna say this real quick. So what we were talking about earlier is it takes a village. Now, so I have a bunch of personal friends that I have a work relationship with for the longest time. I mean, I was in a career for 27 years, and all my friends that are involved in that profession are all stepfathers and fathers, and they all help me parent my kids. So if my kids think they can find somebody in that circle that they can trust or talk to, that they might not be able to talk to me, I give them that opportunity to do that because my friends are open for that. So I mean, that's another thing too, is you have other available people to step in when you can't, or if you're not available to step in. And I know a lot of fathers that go overseas and work military, and they have good friends that step up and are there for the kids. There's officers where if an officer, pass away, God forbid, but officers pass away before in the past, that other officers were able to step up and show up to the kids' games and help the kid out or help the family out. So these are the things that mean really big. It takes a village, and that's what it's all about: is being there for that child and making sure that that child is taken care of and he has the right role models in front of him or her to help them get where they need to be in life.
And that's, I feel like a lot of people, they say like they got this big thing in the world that people say like if you want the world to be a better place, it starts with you type deal. And like you were saying, it take a whole village. If everybody is basically having this type of mindset, the whole community, different walks of life throughout America, if everybody kept that mentality of, we all should work together and build up the children, the next generation. I feel like that would life would excel a lot more than what it is, because a lot of people, they might, keep their kids like this when it could be a lot more, family and friends that could be in the lifestyle. Like I know certain people, she'll get into it with certain family or something. Oh, I don't want them in the kids' life, or try to take them away from the parents or grandparents or something like that. You need certain people, father, grandfather, uncle. You even need mom. You need grandma. You need the whole body of family and outside. Friends too. So, like I said, it's more than just the fathers. It's more than just the uncles, the grandfathers. It take the whole village. But we basically went into it. Basically everything of what it takes to being a man and what it means to being a father. You provide, you protect. You know, trying your best to stay afloat, man, and learn from your mistakes. I know when I do certain things, I mess up or whatever, I'll be like, dang, I probably went a little too hard. I go back and say sorry, or apologize to my son and explain certain things to him. I feel like when I was growing up, my dad he used to do the same thing. My mom, she used to do the same thing. They'll tell you, I messed up with this or whatever. I could have did this way better, and I take the same thing with my son, and I think that's really positive, seeing certain things that you do wrong and be like, I was wrong with this, because it show your kids too, like my dad he was bugging out just a second ago, but for him to come over here and talk to me, that my son he'd be like, man, that was really cool of you to do, so it's a lot that comes with being a father. It's a lot that comes with being a man. Like we was going into too. The hugs, all that stuff. Like it's so much that go into it. Like girls, like women. They're in big bodies. They got 7, 10 friends. Women are like super social. I feel like men are more like to themselves. We might have friends, we might have people that we be around, but a lot of men we deal with things on our own, and I feel like nowadays it just pays well to have other men around you, to benefit off, having 5 men, 10 men that you can count on or call, when you going through somewhere where you need advice, you know because back in the day you couldn't do that. A lot of men they just dealt with it, like they'd be like, oh, I'm going through some. I remember it was a stigma, like if you cry, like you was a boy or a man, you cry, it'd be like you couldn't cry, like men couldn't cry, man. But nowadays it's like, oh, it's looked at as a positive thing for a man to cry or a man to deal with his emotions, you know so it's just really all about the different time change or the different generations, you know You got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked a lot about boys, young men,
Hmm.
but
Even daughters.
daughters are important too because
Hmm.
daughters they like to see the emotional dad. They like to see dad hugs or run up on them and hug them and deal with them in a nurturing way.
Hmm.
For some men, it's hard to do that. I mean, my daughters demand it sometimes, so sometimes I gotta actually force myself to do it. And I'm still not the best at showing my emotions, but we can't forget about the girls as being a father because that's a whole different story. I think I can start a whole nother podcast on just dealing with your daughters and daughters alone, but you can't forget when you talk about the boys, you can't forget about the girls. But
Hmm.
they definitely want that emotional connection.
Yeah, I ain't a girl dad, so I don't even know. I don't even know nothing about that. But yeah, man, I mean, daughters, they need their fathers too, man. One of the biggest things that I used to look at growing up, a lot of women, they look at their fathers. That's they first love, man. That's they first man that they look at, and they gonna compare that to their husband, man, or compare that to their boyfriends. If you a terrible father, 9 times out of 10, your daughter, she gonna pick up, somebody like that, man. So if you trying to, be a better version of yourself, you carry yourself a lot better around your daughter, your sons. It's gonna be for a benefit, man. Your daughter, she like, oh, my dad, he always opened the door for me. My dad, he always covered a bill, or just different things like that. Is gonna carry on to her husband. She can be like, hey, you ain't opening my door, you know
Right.
you ain't paying the bill or whatever. There's certain things that we do for our daughters that's gonna carry on, in the future.
And those are characteristics you want your daughter to take.
Hmm.
So when I think about guys I don't want my daughters with, there's guys that are not nurturing to her, not giving her the time or giving her the love that she deserves. So
Hmm.
I try to pour into her by giving her the love that she deserves, by giving those hugs, maybe even open the door for her, maybe even giving her cash to go do things with, or
Hmm.
if she asks me for something, I give it to her. She wants me to show up for something, that I show up every time, and I'm there to support her. And I think those things that a father pour into a daughter is going to be the things she's going to be looking for in a husband. I think if you want to you want to create competition, that's the way to do it. Is to pour your love and affection into your daughter, but teach her things that she need to look for as in her husband or husband to be.
Cause I know a lot of women, that's like around my age, they be looking for they either want an older man or they want a man, they get with the men. A lot of times they look at them, they be trying to look for that father figure in a man. I remember I used to talk to this one chick. She used to always like the way that she used to act towards me. I could just tell that she didn't have a father, like in her life, and it's heavy that how she was acting. I used to be like, dang, it's kind of messed up, and you could tell just off talking to her how much not having a father in her life or not having a male figure in her life, really changed her. It's certain things that she say or certain things that she do. I'll be like, dang, she just never had no male. Like, I know like certain women, they blame men for everything. They be like, my life is like this because of my dad wasn't there. He was this and that. So it do matter, based off of how you treat your daughter and how you move with her. It's a big deal, a super big deal. If not more, I say your sons, the life that you give with your sons, it'll pack them, but even more so for your daughters, I feel like. And I don't even got a daughter, just off of just seeing the experiences that I came off, just the different women I come across, you know. But hey man, this is another father and son podcast, man. Hey man, it's very important being a man in this society, man. You need men just as much as you need women. You need fathers just as much as you need mothers, man. All right. It's 50-50, man, and it's society tells you, you don't need one or the other. Even with relationships nowadays, I feel like relationships nowadays are trash, man. Just off of everything that we've been seeing off the media, you know, the little girls when they growing up, they told, okay, you gonna meet a man, he gonna be a prince charming, he gonna marry you, take you away, you gonna ride a unicorn, you
False,
know.
false advertising.
But the sons, when I was growing up, my mom didn't tell me no stuff like that. She didn't tell me I was gonna be Prince Charming. I was gonna, get married. and being married for a woman, that is a huge accomplishment, you know. But I feel like that's not really instilled in sons when you growing up. Like, mom, nobody was like, "Oh yeah, you want to get married, you want to get married." That was really, I feel like, more instilled into like the women, you know. And nothing against like marriage or nothing like that, but it's just crazy like growing up hearing that being told to like my sisters and stuff like that, and I'll be like Prince Charming. But when you look at things nowadays, a lot of our women, they base things off of social media or just off things that they watch. I remember growing up, you see like shows like what is it? Dang, I can't even think of it. With the little dude Steve Urkel, what's that? Family Matters. uh you know, all these different shows you grow up, you would see like they had the whole family and these different things like that. You don't have that now. You don't have the family shows. You don't have the mom, the dad, and things like that.
Been replaced with drama.
Yeah, it's replaced with drama, reality TV shows, you know, things like that. Nothing, a lot of things on the media is basically just all fun. It's nothing that's like informative. That's why now, like my dad, he put up things on YouTube. You know, I'll pull up some on YouTube and try to watch something to gain some type of information. You know, and that's a big thing too, having a father that's motivated. Because you can have a father that's motivated, but not for the right reasons. You know.
Facts.
But we're gonna shut it down, man. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, you know, this podcast, you know, from Edmondson Entertainment. You know, I'm Prince Casper. It's,
King James.
it's King James. Hey man, this has been another father and son podcast. Tune in. You know, probably in a couple of days we're gonna put up another one. We're gonna try to put it together a topic, get
Like,
some more
share,
guests.
like, share,
Like, share,
comment.
subscribe.
If you don't like what we're saying or you don't like something we about the podcast, please let us know so we can make an adjustment if we have to. But for the most part, we're coming off cuff. We're telling exactly what we feel during the podcast, and just starting it up really. So if you can make some suggestions, do that. Not saying we're actually going to take the suggestions, but make it be known, and we'll go from there.
Right, man. And hey, man, it's been another podcast, man. Tune in, and hopefully it was encouraging. Hopefully it got you going. Hopefully it motivates you. Hey, man, step up, be a father, man. You know, be a real man. You know, don't. You know, if you got kids, you know, don't put them on the back burner, man. You know, if you a man, you know, you got nieces or you know, grandkids or whatever, man, be there for them. Step up, man. You know, be those role models. All right. So tune in. This has been a father and son podcast.